My dearest lightworkers, take a moment from your busy lives and allow your souls to quiet. I have a revelation to share, something that ordinary people might dismiss as mere coincidence, but which ancient keepers of sacred mysteries recognize as a profound sign from the universe. Have you ever wondered why, suddenly, a mouse appears in your home? Why this small creature, often seen as a mere nuisance, shows up precisely when your lives are undergoing unseen transformations? The answer goes far beyond what the rational mind can grasp, and today, through this sacred conversation, I will unveil one of humanity's oldest secrets. When a mouse crosses the threshold of your dwelling, it's not just a physical event. It's the universe whispering in its deepest symbolic language, sending a small but powerful messenger to awaken something slumbering in your consciousness. The ancients knew this. Spiritual masters from all traditions understood that nothing, absolutely nothing, happens by chance in the theater of existence. Every appearance, every encounter, every unexpected presence carries a coded message from universal wisdom. Let me take you on a journey through the corridors of time, where we will discover that the mouse, this seemingly insignificant being, has been revered and understood as a bearer of sacred messages in civilizations that predate our era. In ancient Egypt, land of pharaohs and initiatic mysteries, the mouse was considered a sacred animal associated with the goddess Bastet and the secrets of nocturnal transformation. Egyptian priests knew that when a mouse appeared in a temple or someone's home, it was a sign that Thoth, the god of wisdom, was preparing an important revelation for that person. In the Hindu tradition, specifically in the worship of Ganesha, the remover of obstacles, the mouse is the vahana, the sacred vehicle of this beloved deity. Ganesha rides a mouse, symbolizing that even the smallest and humblest beings can carry the most powerful divine energy. When a mouse appears in your home, according to this ancient tradition, it's Ganesha saying he's ready to remove the obstacles hindering your spiritual growth. But you must first acknowledge and honor this presence. The ancient Celts, those mystical warriors who understood the language of nature like few others, saw the mouse as a guardian of hidden treasures. For them, the appearance of a mouse at home meant but important secrets were about to be revealed. That knowledge long buried in the unconscious was ready to emerge to the surface of consciousness. It was a sign that the person was being called to an inner quest, to excavate the depths of their own soul. But it is in esoteric Christianity, in those teachings preserved only by the most devout initiates, that we find one of the deepest interpretations of the mouse's presence. Saint Jerome, the great translator of scriptures, wrote in his lost manuscripts that the mouse represents the human soul in its most vulnerable, yet also most receptive state to divine grace. According to these secret texts, when a mouse appears in our home, it is the Holy Spirit inviting us to examine the dark corners of our consciousness, those places where we hide our fears, our shames, our shadow aspects that need to be illuminated by the love of Christ. Now, my beloved followers of this spiritual journey, I need to pause our sacred conversation to share something important with you. If this revelation is touching your heart, if you feel that these words are awakening something dormant in your souls, I invite you to become part of this permanent spiritual family. Click the subscribe button and activate the notification bell, because every video I share with you carries a specific frequency of healing and awakening. Don't let these messages get lost in the digital ocean. Be a part of this stream of light we are building together, word by word, soul by soul. Continuing our journey through the mysteries of the messenger mouse, we need to understand that the specific location where this creature appears in your home carries unique and profound meanings. Each room of your dwelling represents a different aspect of your psyche, your emotional and spiritual life. When the mouse appears in the kitchen, the heart of the home, where food is prepared and transformed, it's a sign that issues related to your emotional and spiritual sustenance need attention. The kitchen represents transformation, the alchemic process where simple ingredients become nourishment for body and soul. The mouse in the kitchen is saying you need to examine how you are feeding yourself spiritually, what kinds of energy you are consuming, what thoughts you are digesting. There is something in your spiritual diet that needs to be purified. If the little messenger appears in the bedroom, the sanctuary of rest and dreams, the message is even more intimate. The bedroom is where we shed not only our clothes, but our social masks, where our vulnerability is completely revealed. A mouse in the bedroom indicates that your dreams are trying to tell you something important, that the unconscious is preparing a significant revelation that will manifest during sleep or in moments of deep introspection. It's a call to pay more attention to your dreams, to keep a journal of the symbols that emerge during the night. In the living room, where we receive visitors and create family memories, the mouse's presence speaks of relationships and social connections. There is something in your network of relationships that needs to be examined. Perhaps you are being too passive in certain situations, or perhaps you need to develop the mouse's ability to move silently and observe before acting. The living room is the space of communication, and the mouse is asking you to listen more deeply to what the people around you are really saying beyond the words. In the bathroom, a place of purification and elimination, the mouse carries a message of urgent spiritual cleansing. There are emotional toxins, negative thoughts, and old patterns that need to be released from your life. The bathroom represents the elimination process, and the rat is telling you it's time to let go of what no longer serves your spiritual growth. If the rat appears dead, the message is equally powerful, but of a different nature. Death, in universal symbolic language, never represents an end, but transformation. A dead rat in your home indicates that a cycle of your life has ended, that a phase of growth has been completed, and you are ready to be reborn on a higher level of consciousness. It's a sign that old aspects of your personality are dying so that a new version of you can emerge. When the rat is alive and active, especially if it seems unafraid of your presence, this indicates that you are being invited to embrace your own vulnerability as a source of strength. The live rat represents vital energy circulating, the need for movement and adaptation in your spiritual life. You are being called to step outside your comfort zone, to explore new territories of your consciousness. If the rat makes sounds, whether a squeak or any noise, pay special attention. Sounds are vibrations, frequencies that carry specific information. A noisy rat is literally trying to capture your auditory attention to something you need to hear but have been ignoring. Perhaps it's your intuition trying to speak louder. Perhaps it's a warning about a situation that requires your immediate attention. A silent rat, on the other hand, represents the need for contemplation, for inner silence. You are being invited to create more spaces of quietude in your life, moments where you can hear the subtle voice of wisdom that whispers only when the mind is completely silent. Now, my dear truth seekers, allow me to share with you two real-life experiences that perfectly illustrate the transformative power of these sacred encounters with the messenger rat. Maria, a 52-year-old retired teacher from Chicago, wrote to me a few months ago, recounting an extraordinary experience. She was going through a period of deep depression after the death of her husband, feeling completely lost and purposeless. One night, while crying in the kitchen, a small rat appeared and stood before her, looking at her with eyes she described as full of compassion. Instead of being afraid, Maria felt an inexplicable peace. At that moment, she intuitively understood that her husband was trying to tell her that she was not alone, that there was still much love to give and receive in this life. 2 weeks later, Maria decided to volunteer at an orphanage, where she now cares for abandoned children and has found a new purpose for her existence. The rat, she said, was the messenger that brought this transformative revelation. John, a 40-year-old businessman from New York City, had an equally impactful experience. He was on the verge of bankruptcy, considering giving up everything, when he began to find dead rats in different rooms of his house. Instead of seeing this as a bad omen, something in his heart told him to seek the spiritual meaning of these encounters. After meditating on the symbolism of death as transformation, John understood that his old business methods, based solely on profit and competition, needed to die so that a new, more ethical and compassionate approach could be born. He completely restructured his company, focusing on social responsibility and sustainability. Today, his business thrives surprisingly well, and John attributes this transformation to the sacred message he received through the rats. These stories show us that when we open ourselves to receive the messages the universe sends us through its small emissaries, miracles happen. The key is not to judge the way the message reaches us, but to recognize the wisdom hidden behind the appearance. But how can we properly honor these sacred encounters? How can we respond appropriately when the messenger rat crosses our path? Let me share a simple yet powerful ritual that you can perform whenever you encounter this special presence. First, when you see the rat, don't react with fear or disgust. Breathe deeply and acknowledge internally, "I see you, little messenger. I am open to receiving your message." This simple mental statement creates a bridge of communication between you and the universal intelligence that works through this encounter. Next, carefully observe all the details: where exactly the rat appeared, how it behaves, what sensations arise in you at this moment. Every detail is significant and carries specific information for your current situation. After the rat is gone, light a white candle and sit in silence for a few minutes. Close your eyes and say the following prayer. Universal Spirit, I thank you for this sacred sign. I open my heart to understand the message being offered through this small being. May I have the wisdom to interpret and the courage to act according to the guidance received. May this experience contribute to my spiritual growth and the well-being of all beings. Keep a spiritual journal where you can record these experiences. Write down not only the facts, but also the feelings, intuitions, and thoughts that arose during the encounter. Over time, you will begin to notice patterns, to understand the specific language that the universe uses to communicate with you. If the rat was dead, create a small ritual of gratitude and release. You can bury the small creature in a pot of soil, planting a seed or seedling on top, symbolizing that from death comes new life. If it's not possible to bury it, simply say a prayer of thanks and release the little body into nature, recognizing that it has fulfilled its sacred mission. In the days following the encounter, pay special attention to your dreams, the synchronicities that arise, and the people who appear in your path. The rat is only the first sign of a sequence of messages that the universe is preparing for you. Be alert and receptive. Reflect deeply on these questions I now place before your souls. What aspects of your life need the agility and adaptability of the mouse? In what areas have you been too rigid or resistant to change? What dark corners of your consciousness need to be explored and illuminated? What hidden resources, what dormant talents, what unexplored possibilities are waiting to be discovered in the attics of your soul? The mouse teaches us about the art of spiritual survival. Just as this small creature can thrive in the most challenging environments, we too can learn to flourish amidst life's difficulties. The mouse shows us that we don't need to be big or imposing to be significant. Sometimes the greatest transformations come through the subtlest signs, the most unexpected encounters. There's an ancient Eastern legend about a monk who spent years meditating in a cave seeking enlightenment. He fasted, prayed, studied sacred texts, but the supreme mystical experience continued to elude him. One night, while sleeping, a small mouse climbed onto his body and tickled his nose. The monk woke up laughing uncontrollably, and in that moment of pure spontaneous joy, all the barriers of his mind dissolved, and he experienced unity with the divine. The mouse had been the last guru needed on his spiritual journey. This story teaches us that divine wisdom can manifest through the most unexpected forms. The universe has a sacred sense of humor, and sometimes it uses the smallest beings to teach us the greatest lessons. When we learn to see the sacred in the seemingly mundane, when we recognize the divine in the humble, our spiritual perception expands exponentially. The mouse also represents our innate capacity for navigation. Just as these small beings can find their way through the most complex mazes, we too possess an inner compass that can guide us through life's challenges. When a mouse appears in your life, it may be a reminder that you already possess all the wisdom necessary to overcome current obstacles. You just need to trust your intuition and follow the whispers of your soul. In many shamanic traditions of the Americas, the mouse is considered a power animal, associated with the earth element and the energies of meticulous observation. Shamans teach that when the mouse crosses our path, we are being invited to pay attention to the details we've been neglecting, to the small signs that contain great truths. It's a call to develop our capacity for subtle observation, to become true investigators of our own spiritual experience. Think about this. How often do you go through your days without truly observing the small miracles that surround you? How many divine messages are lost because we're too busy with the superficial concerns of daily life? The mouse comes to remind us that authentic spiritual life is in the details, in the nuances, in the almost imperceptible whispers of the sacred. There's also a very important aspect related to fertility and abundance. Mice are known for their ability to reproduce rapidly and abundantly. When they appear in our lives, they may be signaling that we are entering a period of great creativity and prosperity. But this abundance doesn't just refer to the material. It's mainly about spiritual fertility, the ability to generate new insights, new understandings, new levels of consciousness. Have you ever stopped to think about how the mouse manages to transform the smallest resources into sustenance? This little creature teaches us about the art of practical alchemy, about how to transform apparent limitations into opportunities for growth. When we face financial, emotional, or spiritual difficulties, we can invoke the wisdom of the mouse. How can I work with what I have now? How can I find nourishment in the seemingly scarce resources that surround me? The medicine of the mouse also speaks to the importance of community and cooperation. Although we often see these beings alone, they live in complex social structures where each member has an important role. When a mouse appears in your life, it may be a sign that you need to recognize your interdependence with other beings, that it's time to seek or offer support within your spiritual community. Allow me to share a personal reflection that may further illuminate this mystery. During my years of study and meditation, I've learned that the universe constantly offers us teachers in the form of experiences, people, and yes, small beings like the mouse. Every encounter is a lesson in the cosmic university of existence. The secret is to maintain our beginner's mind, that childlike ability to marvel and learn from everything and everyone. When we develop this sacred perspective, we realize that there are no insignificant experiences. The mouse that crosses our path carries the same transformative power as any great spiritual master, because both are expressions of the same universal intelligence that orchestrates the entire cosmos. There's a Hermetic teaching that says, as above, so below, as in the microcosm, so in the macrocosm. The mouse, being one of the smallest creatures we regularly encounter, represents the subtlest and most refined aspects of spiritual wisdom. It teaches us that we don't need grand gestures or dramatic experiences to connect with the divine. Sometimes the deepest revelations come through the most delicate whispers. Think about the humility of the mouse. This small creature doesn't seek to impress anyone, doesn't compete for attention, simply lives its life authentically and presently. There's a profound lesson here about how we can approach our own spiritual journey. Instead of seeking spectacular mystical experiences or spiritual recognition, we can learn from the mouse to find the sacred in the simplicity of the present moment. Now, my dear fellow travelers, I want you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine a small mouse approaching you. See in this little creature's eyes a reflection of your own divine essence. Recognize that both you and the mouse are unique expressions of the same cosmic source of love and wisdom. Feel the deep connection that exists between all life forms on this sacred planet we call home. This visualization isn't just an imaginative exercise. It's a practice of spiritual communion that can open channels of communication with the subtle realms of existence. When we learn to see the divine in all creatures, our capacity to receive spiritual guidance multiplies exponentially. The rat also teaches us about the importance of divine timing. Observe how these creatures know exactly when to emerge from their hiding places, when it's safe to forage for food, when it's time to retreat. They possess a keen sense of the right moment for each action. When a rat appears in our lives, it may be the universe reminding us to trust the divine timing of our own existence, that there's a right moment for each phase of our spiritual growth. How many times have we despaired because things don't happen in the time frame we'd prefer? How many times have we forced situations that aren't yet ripe to manifest? The rat invites us to cultivate sacred patience, that spiritual quality that recognizes that everything has its season, everything has its perfect moment of blossoming. There's also a very important aspect related to our capacity for adaptation. Rats have managed to survive and thrive in virtually every environment on Earth, from arid deserts to sprawling metropolises. This extraordinary adaptation is a spiritual quality we can cultivate in our own lives. When a rat appears, it may be an invitation to examine our spiritual flexibility. Are we being too rigid in our beliefs? Are we resisting the changes that life is trying to offer us? True spirituality isn't about following inflexible dogmas, but about developing the wisdom to flow with the currents of existence, always maintaining our spiritual center, but adapting our outward expression to the needs of the present moment. My beloved lightworkers, as our sacred conversation draws to a close, I want to leave you with an understanding that can completely transform your relationship with the signs and symbols the universe constantly offers. Every creature that crosses our path, every seemingly casual experience, every moment of synchronicity is a letter in the sacred alphabet that the cosmos uses to communicate with us. The rat is just one of these letters, but when we learn to read this divine language, our lives become a constant conversation with universal wisdom. There are no coincidences in the universe of consciousness. Everything is interconnected by invisible threads of meaning and purpose. When a rat appears in your home, it's not just an isolated physical event. It's part of a much larger cosmic symphony being played specifically for your soul. The invitation I extend to you today is to become dedicated students of this sacred language. Begin to pay attention to the patterns, the repetitions, the synchronicities that manifest in your lives. Keep a spiritual journal where you can record these sacred encounters. Over time, you will develop a spiritual fluency that will transform your life experience in surprising ways. Remember, you are not victims of random circumstances. You are conscious co-creators of your reality, in constant dialogue with a universal intelligence that loves you unconditionally and desires only your growth, your happiness, and your spiritual fulfillment. Every rat that appears in your lives is an expression of this divine love, a carefully wrapped gift containing exactly the wisdom you need at the right moment. May you embrace every messenger the universe sends, however small. May you see the sacred in the humble, the extraordinary in the ordinary, the divine in the mundane. May your lives become a sacred dance of recognition and gratitude for the countless signs of love that surround you every moment. And if this message has touched your heart, if these words have awakened something in your soul, don't forget to share this light with other seekers. Subscribe to this sacred channel, turn on notifications, and become part of this spiritual family that grows every day. Together, we are creating a network of light that spreads across the world, one word at a time, one soul at a time. May peace and wisdom always be with you, dear lightworkers, until our next encounter on the infinite journey of spiritual awakening.